Hi everybody, this is Osprey from MyChartCoach.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at some of the stocks that were in play today. I mean, we literally have so many stocks in play right now with the Bitcoin and blockchain stocks. I know that in the last video we were talking about puts for Overstock and Riot. You know, those were covered this morning, and then and then the script was flipped to playing the bounces. So now we're on bounce play mode for the entire Bitcoin and crypto stock sector. So yeah, if you'd like to check out more information on that, come check out our chat. We have a lot of information posted. So yeah, check out SAEX. So first off, we're going to do a couple of the top percentage gainers of the day. This is a stock that we posted alerts on yesterday. On the big bullish move above the 50-day simple moving average. So today there was a really nice follow through, closed up 70 or 35%. You've got RSI at 71, Fasto at 85. Notice it does have a tendency to top out at these levels. So we'll see if it can push higher. It was a big move above the 100-day simple moving average. People really loaded in once it got above that key level. That was 205, and so it was nice to see it stay above that level and close above for the day. That's exactly what we were looking for. You know, the long upper wick on yesterday's candle had pulled back from that level, but there was a bullish close yesterday above the 50-day simple moving average, which is at 182. So take note, when the 50-day simple moving average has been resistance for an extended period of time. Notice how the candles hadn't been above that level for a couple months. Once there's a close above, that's usually the signal that the share price wants to head higher. So that's the signal to load. And then everybody that knows our strategies, theories, trading principles, they knew to jump in. And then today they were rewarded. So if you want to get the payoff, you know, come check out our chat. I'm telling you, it's going to be so worth it for you. Okay, so if you look here at the high close here, the next key level to break, which is exactly where it hit. And so we always discuss the high close resistance levels. I recommend you drawing these on your chart, and then that way you can, it predetermines where you need to be exiting. So today, if you would have just drawn this line in, notice that it was big resistance or support from back here in July. We've talked about this level already, and then once the share price hit it, it was a signal that if you're a trader, somebody that's looking to flip, somebody that looks to lock in gains before the closing bell, this was your sign to lock them in. When it hit 290 and failed to break and pulled back. Now for people that are swing trading, the share price the stock is still in play, and if it can break above 290, what we're looking for next week is a break above the 200-day simple moving average at 318. That's our two next big levels. So on Monday or Tuesday, since it is a holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. I hope everybody has a very happy holiday with family and friends. The break above 290 next week would be very bullish, and then what we want to see is a close above the 200-day simple moving average. You know, if it can keep knocking these moving averages down, it can keep pushing higher. Yesterday, the close was barely above the upper Bollinger Band. Today, the upper Bollinger Band is at 218, so it closed well above that level. You could see the candles work their way back into the bands. It won't mean that the chart's broken. It'll just mean that it's cooling down. It's taking a little breather. You know, it's getting a little ahead of itself here. And so that does happen. You want to see that 100-day simple moving average hold and EMA 4 support hold. If it does indeed take a little breather on Tuesday, if it pushes ahead, then what you want to see is a close above that 200-day simple moving average. If it runs up and hits that 200 simple moving average and then pulls back and fails to get above it, or it gets above it and then pulls back intraday, those are all your signals to lock in gains if you are a trader. Okay, let's look at FTFT. Okay, yeah, this is another stock that's been, we've been alerting it all week, and it's been hanging in there. I mean, this thing it's pretty interesting. It's one of those odd chart type plays, all right? Because not all charts are all perfect and easy to read, and this is one of the ones that's kind of a little bit odd. It has the long upper wicks on the candles, and it's been it has the sign that it keeps looking like it wants to pull back and do a little correction and come down here and test this 200-day simple moving average, but it's holding up strong. People are buying this hand over fist. They're not letting it drop. I mean, nobody wanted this thing before the run. You could see there was a couple front loaders, so you had a couple people, you had some people that obviously knew this thing was getting ready to go. So for these penny stocks, you can always see that. You want to look for that. See how there's tight Bollinger Bands, and then you look for volume bars for thinly traded stocks, and this is a signal that people are loading. Similar to the options guys that follow the volume in the option trades, we do the same thing with our penny stocks. And so there's people always front loading. People always know news is coming. People always, they always take positions ahead of time. It's just human nature. And so they can hide, but they can't hide the volume bars. And so we can follow them through their volume. That's how the big players show their cards, and that's how we know to jump into stocks. And so this big volume spike here and break above resistance was the signal to jump in. And it shook people out the next day, but notice the shakeout was on really light volume, and then it's been bullish ever since. So on this pullback, EMA 8 support held at 301, and it's back above the 300-day simple moving average. So if it can stay above 390 and turn that 300-day simple moving average into support, notice how it spent 4 days last week or this week working on that level, and it closed above 2 out of 4 days. I mean, that's pretty. 300-day simple moving average is the top dog. That's the tough level to get ahead, and so it's currently above all the moving averages on the chart, every single moving average. And so what we'll be looking at here is we'll post another chart showing key resistance levels from the past, and then it's going to have to get through these wicks up here. So yeah, so the big thing is stays above 390, then it's still in play. Okay, so check out MYO. This is another one that followed through for us. So congrats to everybody, and just keep in mind, I'm just the messenger. I'm just somebody that there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me on reading charts that are way more advanced. I'm at the level that I'm at, and so I'm able to share that information with you. But all I'm really doing is just reading the charts. So this is something that everybody can learn to do. And so yeah, so the call was put out that this was closed above the middle Bollinger Band, and then it was holding support. And so it's just following through. And so all we're doing is following the charts. And if you follow the charts and you find the good setups and you stick with the trade, you get payoffs like today, where it closed up 18%. So congrats everybody in the chat. Good job, everyone. Got a lot of messages this week from people that are doing really well. People are having some of the best weeks of their lives, some of the best experiences they've ever had on learning how to trade. So I appreciate all the positive comments, and I wish everybody, a lot more success in 2018. I know it's going to be a great year for everyone. If you look here, we've got the close on the 19th above the middle Bollinger Band. There were alerts put out on that, because if you notice, it broke below the middle Bollinger Band here on the 20th, and then it was in a downtrend. And so when it finally closed above the middle Bollinger Band, that was your clue. This was your signal. This was the first day. I always talk about EPIE. Entry point is everything. EPIE, EPIE. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about right here. Entry point is everything. If you loaded on the first day, if you loaded right when the middle Bollinger Band broke and support held, and you were a swing trader, then you're set up. And then today, you were rewarded, and you can keep riding as long as the chart's bullish. If you're a swing trader that's into swinging for multiple days until the chart breaks down, this is the best entry point when you can get the very start of a new uptrend. Just like over here, look in November. The best entry point on this chart was this day right here. You could have loaded down here, but then it was still risky because the stock was still in the downtrend. You could have wrote it. You probably got shook out on these days. But that first day, the first break above the middle Bollinger Band, that's your signal that a new uptrend is starting. And if support holds, if you get in on that first day, then you're in the driver's seat, especially if it turns into a longer term play. And it works really well with the 3 times ETFs when they heat up. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so just trying to share with everyone, the 50-day simple moving average is the key level to hold now. That's at 376. That's the big level. If it can turn that level into support, then we're going to be looking for a run up here to the 100-day simple moving average at 512. That is the next resistance level. It is hitting the upper Bollinger Band at 399. That's that purple line. It has to bust through that and then make a run up to that 100-day simple moving average next week. We want to see the share price stay above the 50-day simple moving average now. You want to see it stay above that 375 level. Yeah, the chart is following through nicely, so congrats everybody. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and look at the Bitcoin blockchain bounce play setups. And so let's look at Overstock first. It's kind of it's one of the more valuable Bitcoin companies, and it's one of the more legit, since it's not really it's not a pure Bitcoin play. And yeah, so it's a good chart to follow. And what's going on here is pretty much an example of what's happening all the way across the the sector. So you're going to have similar patterns. So I'll get some more charts posted this weekend. But yeah, if you know, the other charts that we cover that are in the sector, they have very similar patterns, and they're all kind of following the same mode. So keep that in mind. There's a multi-day pullback going for these stocks, you know, very similar to Bitcoin itself. And what we look for when a stock pulls back, you know, it got above the upper Bollinger Band. We always look for a bounce off the middle Bollinger Band if that level can hold. You know, it hit that level, but it failed to bounce off before. Today it bounced off of that level. Notice how this is a red candle, but it's open. It's not a solid red. That's because the close was above the open, but it was still down on the day. It had such a big gap down open that it came up and it filled the gap. It came all the way back up and filled the gap. And so yeah, it would have been nice. I mean, you know, the nice thing when they gap down like that, and if they close, you can shoot for that gap fill as a target later. You know, but this filled right away, which was very bullish. And so this is you know, it was really nice. I mean, the puts delivered hardcore in the morning, and then the calls delivered hardcore in the afternoon. And if you were on top of it, you could have been like tennis and just flip flopped it and made fat bank today. And so the big break now above EMA 13 was good. Okay, so it got back above after being below intraday, and then it's below EMA's 4 and 8, and today it actually closed below EMA 8, and that was the negative thing that we were looking for. So even though it had this dramatic run back, it still failed to close above the next key level, and that does signal more downside risk. So we're going to see what happens next week. It's all about two levels. It's EMA 8 at 65.87 and EMA 4 at 67.66. Once it gets above both levels, then you're saying, okay, this chart is healthy again. It's cruising. If those levels are resistance, it still has a possibility to consolidate more, and then it has to hold that middle Bollinger Band at 56.70 to keep the uptrend going. Now, if you look at the 15-minute chart, you'll see that it was in a really strong downtrend. It kept trying to get above the middle Bollinger Band. That's the dotted purple line, and it was failing to hold that level. Stocks in a downtrend formed candles below the middle Bollinger Band and right at EMA's 4 and 8 resistance lower. And so what caught our eye on these plays all across the board was the first volume bar of the day. There was the gap down open, and then look at the volume bar, the biggest volume of the day. Keep in mind, big players, they load at the bottom and they sell at the top. Why? Because the big dogs always win. They always win. They're the big dogs. They're the ones with all the money. We're, you know, most, you know, 99% of us are just the little dogs, just freaking, you know, following along here. And so what we do is we follow the money. When we saw the big volume spike at the bottom, this was the signal to lock in funds on your puts and then go long. And it played out perfect. And it ran all the way back up here. It got above the middle Bollinger Band, and then you've got the so this was your signal. Okay, so it got above EMA's 4 and 8. That was a signal that it was heating up, but it failed to, you know, turn those levels into support until it finally got above the middle Bollinger Band here. That was your big clue. So for us, that's always the big thing. It has to be you know, back above the middle Bollinger Band to be heating up. And then the next big thing it has to do is get above the 50 simple moving average on the 15-minute chart. And the reason why I say that is, look right here. We're looking at multiple, like 2 hours straight of candles hitting that level and failing to break. Why do they keep failing to break that? Because the computer programs are in control. 80% of the trading is done by the algorithmic trading programs that have the program obviously set right here not to let it break the 50 simple moving average. Why do we follow all these moving averages? Why do we have this game plan? It's because we're just following the computer programs. This is like the poor man's method. We're just using our brains, but all we're really doing is following what the computers are doing. And right now the computers are saying it's not breaking that 50 simple moving average. Once you see it break above, that's going to be your signal. Okay, it's ready. It's ready to head higher. Fail to break that on Monday, and it's going to signal downside risk. Another reason why we were looking for a bounce down here is because the 300 simple moving average, that's this blue line right here, that is the bounce level. Notice how it broke through the 50 up here, the 50, the 100, which is the gold line, the red line's the 200, and then it came down to 300. When a stock does that on the 15-minute chart, here you go, here's another good one for you. You freaking look to load on that 300 simple moving average. When it comes down, it hits that level. Many times you get at least a technical bounce, and so that's a target for us. So keep that in mind. And thanks for viewing this video. So I appreciate you viewing it, and so I'm just trying to help you out. And so yeah, so always have that as your target. Once again, the theory is proven correct. You know, if it breaks below and the 300 fails to hold, well then the chart's just totally broken, and then it's just the bears are in control. And so the bulls are still hanging in here. And so what has to happen? It's got to get above the 50, the 200, and then once it's back above the 100, about $70, then it's party time again. It's got some resistance to work through here. The first big level to break is going to be basically that 66 level. Okay, let's look at RIOT. Okay, this is the other one. You know, it's been it behaved just like we were anticipating on the pullback. You know, like I said in the previous video, it had the bearish patterns. You know, when you see an inverted hammer at the top of a run, that's your signal to exit, right? So you have the long upper wicks, the big volume spikes, all signals to exit. If you didn't exit on that, you should have exited on the bearish engulfing. If you didn't exit on that, you should have exited on the break below EMA 4 here. You know, it was just all signals to go to the sidelines, because it was signaling that our target was going to be hit, and it did get hit today, and it bounced right off of it, which was the $21 target. I put that out multiple days ago, so congrats to everybody. And for people that looked to load off of 21, bam, you did good. It bounced off. You could have bought some calls right down there. I know people that did in the chat, or you know, people were talking about it, that they were doing well on that. So all you got to do is look for that target at the middle Bollinger Band, and if a stock's in a strong uptrend and it's riding EMA's 4 and 8 support higher, and it gets above that upper Bollinger Band, when it pulls back, if it hits that middle Bollinger Band, boom, that's your load target, and then you look to play the bounce. Now, if it drops below that middle Bollinger Band, it's going to be downside risk, and then you're looking at that 50 simple moving averages of the next key level to hold. Okay, so it's got to hold that middle Bollinger Band to keep the uptrend going. It'll be a major red flag if it closes below and it turns into resistance. Okay, so look at the 15-minute chart, and so this is the exact same setup as before, but notice how it broke below the 300 simple moving average. So yesterday it closed right at that level, and it was looking to bounce off. It didn't get back above the middle Bollinger Band. You know, you're watching here, looking, you know, as it's hitting the support. You're like, okay, it's heating up. Is it gonna get back above? And then what you wait for is that break above the middle Bollinger Band, and it did not happen yesterday, and it dropped down lower. And so if you were following the game plan not to load when the candles are below the middle Bollinger Band and the 50 simple moving average on the 15-minute chart, then you didn't get burned today on the gap down. If it takes patience to play the bounce. Once again, you've got the big volume bar at the bottom with the long lower wick on the candle. This was the load candle here on the first candle of the day. And then when you see the pattern across the sector, it's confirming that, like, okay, at least there's people that are trying to play this bounce down here at this level, and so it got it back above the middle Bollinger Band. It has to stay above 24. 24.15 is the middle Bollinger Band. If it drops below, that's going to signal downside risk. You're going to see 22 tested again. You could possibly see a drop back down to 20. If it holds 24, then you've got this key level right here, which is between the 50 and 300 simple moving average, basically between 26.75 and 27.50. And so if it can get above those two levels, then it could heat up again. But if it fails to get back above that 50 simple moving average, that will signal more consolidation. Okay, look at SSC. This is one of the stronger Bitcoin blockchain related stocks. Okay, so this thing has really actually performed much better than most of the ones in the sector, so keep that in mind. And if you're somebody that doesn't like a lot of risk, you should gravitate towards these kind of charts. You know, try to stay away from the more volatile ones. You can keep taking it down notches of company credibility, and you can keep elevating the risk, and you could have a possible percentage gain. You know, you could maybe make more percentage gains off of some of these really risky penny stocks that we cover, but there's also, you could take a much bigger loss. And so you have something like SSC that's a much more steady stock that's in the sector, and it's just been performing better. Okay, so it has a stronger chart. Notice that the RSI is still above 70. You have Fasto here, and it's still in the bull zone. The candles were riding EMA's 4 and 8 support, even when a lot of those stocks were breaking down much harder. That this still held the EMA 4, and so today it had a gap down open down here at the EMA 13, and the bulls actually drove it up, and it closed green on the day, which is pretty crazy. That was a really strong move off the bottom, a really sweet bounce. Notice EMA 13 had been holding during this recent couple week run here. Now the risk was that it came all the way down to the middle Bollinger Band, but the buyers were right there at the open, as you can see on the first candle of the day. It's back above EMA 4. It needs to hold that level. You know, if you see a close below EMA 4, notice how it hasn't closed below that level since it started this new push higher. That'll be your signal that it's going to start consolidating, similar to over here. Notice how it closed below and then it consolidated all the way down to the 50 simple moving average. So it's still hanging in there. It's hanging in there much stronger than anticipated. That was a really sweet move. So congrats to everybody. And you just want to see that continue. As long as the middle Bollinger Band at 346 is holding, the uptrend is intact. If you just look at the 15-minute chart, now notice how much more bullish this is than the other two charts I just showed you. You know, this one, you know, stayed above the 50 simple moving average, and then it just had closed like right below the 100 yesterday, and then today, you know, it dropped down. It bounced off the 300 simple moving average zone. See the blue line? Once again, you load on that zone. I'm telling you, it's money. And it bounced off that level, came back up, and then you've got it back above the middle Bollinger Band, above the 200 simple moving average. That was a signal, okay, this thing is looking pretty strong. And then look at the close. It closed above the 50 and 100 simple moving averages. Now it's above every single moving average on the 15-minute chart. It's as bullish as it gets. All it has to do now is stay above 524, and you can see that uptrend continue. You know, if it drops back below, then that's going to be a signal that it could consolidate. Okay, look at GROW. Okay, so it did close down 13% today. This one made a really nasty pullback. It had closed yesterday right at that middle Bollinger Band, and so we were looking for a potential bounce off of that level, similar to the move here back here on December 6th and 7th. You know, that's what it was set up to potentially do, but instead it pulled the move from back here in November, where it dropped below and it came down to that 50 simple moving average, 50-day simple moving average, the green line. And so notice how it had a nice bounce off of that zone right at the open, and it did form. It's not a hammer. It has an upper wick, but it's a very similar candle to a hammer. You know, it has the lower wick showing loading. You have the three red candles in a row, and then the big gap down with a hammer forming. Not a hammer, but it's a similar type of candle with the loading on the bottom. So it seems like this is set up to potentially fill that gap, fill that space between high of day today and low of day yesterday. And so this could work its way back to the middle Bollinger Band at 474. Okay, so that is the target. It is for a bounce back up to 474. It could hit that and turn into resistance and pull back and start a downtrend. Now, if it fails to pop back up, it should fill that gap. You would think that it would. It would be a major red flag if it didn't fill that gap very quickly. It has to hold the 50 simple moving average at 354. If it drops below the 50-day simple moving average, this chart is totally broken, and you do not want to be long. So this is a must. Tuesday is a huge day for the stock. It really needs to get a healthy Santa Claus bounce. I mean, you know, these things are set up for you know, Santa Claus rally after the Scrooge drove them into the ground. And so you can look at the 15-minute chart. It keeps trying to get above that middle Bollinger Band, and it's been failing. And so now you've got a situation where it's got very tight Bollinger Bands, and it has candles that are above the middle Bollinger Band. You know, they're trying to turn it into support. Notice how the Bollinger Bands are tightening. And so what you want to see now is a bust through that upper Bollinger Band, and then a move above the 50 simple moving average at 443. Once it gets above 443, that's your signal that, like, okay, this chart is heated up again, and I'm ready to rock and roll. If it's still in the zone between 4 and 443, there's still risk that it could pull back. If it drops down below this 380 support zone, that's going to be a big red flag. Once again, look at the huge volume spike on the first of the day. You know, it's like somebody had a program in to load heavy at the low of day, and the market makers obliged because it was such a big order, and they just blanketed across every single one of these blockchain stocks that we cover because they all have the same chart. And so, yeah, and then look at TEUM here. This stock is it was failed to break the 300-day simple moving average, and like I've you know say many times, and so I'm like a freaking broken record. I know it, but it's all about just learning these patterns, because the patterns are what counts. It doesn't really matter as much about the ticker symbol. It's more about the pattern if you want to really start making some money. And so the big thing is to learn these patterns, and then you could profit on a daily basis. And so the big thing is the 300-day simple moving average average here at 167. We want to see a break above that. That failed to happen here. The black candle with the spinning top above the upper Bollinger Band, that was your signal to exit, and also that it was hitting the 300-day simple moving average. You know, if you didn't exit, this red candle was really a signal to go, you know, to get to the sidelines, and then you notice it pulled back, and then today it formed a nice pattern with the gap down and then the doji. So I'm not sure. It doesn't look like a bearish reversal pattern actually formed. You know, is this? It could have been a bearish evening star here. If that was a bearish evening star, and then this was confirmation here, you know, the pattern was confirmed. Then today, bullish doji star reversal pattern formed, and so I'll have to check to see on the pattern. It's an interesting setup here, but that could have been the evening star pattern with the confirmation here on the 20th, and then a reversal. I should have checked that out in advance, but nonetheless, the three red candles with the gap down and a doji with the long leg off of the middle Bollinger Band and the 150-day simple moving average support levels. This is a good bounce play setup. You know, it should bounce with this type of setup. Now it may not, but it's really set up for it. And what it needs to do is get above 134. If it gets above 134, look for a run back up to 167. A close above that 300-day simple moving average next week would be your signal that it wants to head higher. Notice that it had the big volume on the 18th and 19th, and then notice that it's lighter volume on the pullback. You know, same thing over here. So big volume on the up days, light volume on the pullback. That's actually what you want to see if you're a bull. Okay, let's look at TEUM. Okay, once again, on the 15-minute chart, notice we have the same thing. Break below the 50, the 100. It came down to the 200. This one, the lower wick, hit the 300 zone. Notice the 300's down here. It's kind of off this chart. It's at 105. So it hit the zone right there and bounced. Once again, big volume spike. The big player, they always win, right? That's why they have all the money. And yeah, the candles have closed back above the middle Bollinger Band. You've got the tight Bollinger Bands here. The lower Bollinger Band, upper Bollinger Band are both super tight. Same type of setup. Bust through that upper Bollinger Band, through the 50-day simple or 50 simple moving average on the 15-minute chart at 134, and that signals party time. So above 134 signals it wants to head higher. A drop below 119 signals downside risk. Okay, so now let's check out GLNNF. So not only are big board, blockchain, and Bitcoin stocks bouncing, and so the charts that I just posted, you're going to find that all the stocks that we're covering that are in the sector have the same pattern. It was a sector-wide move. When you see a sector-wide move like that, you know, you just want to follow along. It's big players are you know, and there's going to be a good chance that it's going to follow through because they loaded with so much volume. So we're looking for follow-through on the swing trades on Tuesday. So not only were the big board stocks, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, you know, all the ones that are trading on the American Stock Exchange, whatever, the big boards, those guys were rocking, and then at the same time, the OTC stocks, the over-the-counter Bitcoin blockchain stocks, they were rocking as well. And so they're set on the same type of program. And so I'm going to show you GLNNF, but I want to let you know that we had multiple plays in the sector that were bouncing. I will get another video posted. Yeah, so you got a similar situation here where you had multiple red candles in a row. Man, I should have showed you. I should show this to you because it's a better chart. I've got the chart here on an annotated chart for GLNNF, and this is one that we showed today. Yeah, just because it shows the double bottom so everybody can see it. This will be helpful. But yeah, it came down and it hit this double bottom zone, and it hit the 50-day simple moving average. Okay, so right down here on the 137 is the 50-day simple moving average. As you can see right here. Let's see here. Yeah. Sorry about that. I apologize. So yeah, as you can see here, this is a better chart there for you to check out. It came down, it hit this level on the 11th and bounced, and then it came back up. It failed to get above the middle Bollinger Band, you know, and that signaled that it was still in a downtrend. And so just keep that in mind, everybody. If it doesn't get back above that middle Bollinger Band, you don't want to be long. I know a lot of people got stuck holding here, and that is just not the game you want to play. So below the middle Bollinger Band, don't be long unless you're trying to play that bounce, and then you have to get out if it doesn't set up right. You know, it's just because you get stuck in a situation where you're holding for multiple days, and then that it drives you crazy. You're not able to use that money. You're worried the whole time what's going on. It's just better to exit, regroup, and wait for that next signal to jump in. Sometimes you get shook out. That's part of the game. The difference between the rookies and the pros are the pros know how to manage a trade that isn't working out, and then the rookies, they don't know what to do. They're like a deer caught in headlights, and then they become bag holders, and then they end up possibly getting wiped out, or it doesn't work out for them. So don't be try to be a pro. Learn how to manage trades that aren't working out well. Your first loss is your best loss, meaning you try to exit quickly when it's not working out the way you planned. Okay, so as you can see here, came down, hit this level, came back up, and so we put out alerts well in advance when it was breaking down here a couple days ago that the 50-day simple moving average was the target at 137. It came down, hit that level, and bounced off perfectly. So congrats to everybody that was loading there in the 130s. Good job, way to rock it. It performed nicely after the load at the open, and then it closed back above that 50-day simple moving average. It did close below EMA4 at 161. It broke that intraday. It has to get above that level, okay? So once it's above EMA4, that's our signal, okay, it's heating up, okay? It's heating up. Then it has to get above EMA's 8 and 13, and then it has to get above the middle Bollinger Band. So it's got a lot of work to do, but it's heating up, and it has a good story. It's actually a legitimate business that they've signed lots of big deals. It's just that they had some dilution. This big candle came when they talked about some kind of $10 million in stock offering, and so it pulled back, and so now we're looking for the for that to have been digested, and then for the next push higher. And so if it can hold that 50-day simple moving average and get above the middle Bollinger Band, we could be talking about a run back up to $3, which from down here at 140, that'd be a nice 100% gain. If it failed to hold, and I'm not talking about it in one day, this thing moves pretty slow. It's not a fast runner. And then to the downside, if it breaks that 50-day simple moving average, that's going to signal downside risk, and you could see it drop all the way down to that 100-day simple moving average. Okay, so if you look at the 15-minute chart, the 15-minute chart really heated up today. It made a really sweet move. It's so check it out. It came down. Look at the big bounce. Look at the bounce off of lower day on the first candle. Look at that giant volume spike. They loaded heavy. So they're loading this just like they're loading the other ones. Why? Because these guys are legit. This is a legit Canadian company. Yeah, they're doing some kind of Canadian burger joint or something. They're doing electronic payments. I don't know. They seem like they've got it together, and they've only been trading for a short period of time, and the share price has done really well. It just has pulled back here recently, and so it had the big low down here, and then it got going sideways, and then notice how it got above the middle Bollinger Band, super tight Bollinger Bands, and then they started walking it higher into the close. It broke the 50 simple moving average briefly at the close at 150. Notice how it had the volume spike. We're looking for a close above that level. Once it breaks above 150, then that's when our signal is that this chart is healthy, and that it's time to really jump in. And then it has to hold that 50 simple moving average. But this is where you're taking a starter, and you're looking for the chart to heat up, and then once it confirms, that's when you go all in, or not go all in, but you complete your position that you had for that trade. Okay, so let's look at NXTTF. Okay, this one is up 18% today. It has been a freaking beast, man. This thing is not slowing down. It's amazing. That's one of those things where EMA4 support keeps holding, and the signal, if you're a swing trader, is just to keep riding. There was a couple closes below right here, but it held EMA8. But for multiple weeks, basically since back here in November when it got above that level, it's been holding. And so the signal is to keep riding as long as EMA4 is holding. You never know how high they're going to push this. These guys are, they're really running these Canadian stocks. They've been performing so well. We have so many Canadian stocks with beautiful charts. I know everybody keeps jumping around to all these other plays, and all they had to do is just buy this and just keep riding when it was alerted. Like they could have. There's just a lot of these ones that have the same kind of pattern that are making daily gains, and these base hits add up. If you loaded on Monday near $1, by Friday you were up 100%. That's pretty darn good. You know, it didn't all happen in one day, but it was pretty darn good. Now keep in mind there is a gap down here, and so at some point it could drop down here to $1 to fill that gap. Gaps do get filled, so you know you saw what happened with Bitcoin and with the altcoins, and we did put out alerts on that, and I posted the Eiffel Tower charts, you know, that Kimball makes, which I thought were really awesome, and the you know from a while ago, and I pulled those back out to show what was going on with Bitcoin. And it was, you know, exactly how it played out, and that's the same thing that could happen with some of these other stocks that are in the marijuana sector that are pushing really hard and forming those really parabolic pushes. You know, just keep in mind those do get followed by pullbacks eventually at some point. Okay, nothing goes straight up forever. Okay, let's look at CBIS weekly chart. Okay, so I'm going to show you the weekly because the daily chart was rocking out, and it's closed really well on the weekly chart today, or the daily chart today, and so it has this nice uptrend going on the weekly chart, and today or this week it made the really bullish move that we were looking for. It finally closed above the 50-week moving average at 0.063. If that level turns into support and holds, this is really set up for a longer-term swing trade. You could see this retrace back up here to this 12 level from the previous high up here at 12 cents from January of 2017. I believe that's where it's headed. They rocked it on their recent earnings. We've got California with legalization in January 1st. So this company is set up. You guys keep that in mind, that California is legalizing marijuana for the entire state recreationally, just for fun, on January 1st. It is going to be a huge economic boom and a huge explosion for the marijuana sector. I mean, you guys, I hope you're ready for it, because I know we are. I posted so many, you know, I've been posting so many, and we have other people in the chat. And thank you very much, everybody, for all the great teamwork, you know, posting all these charts with all these plays that are in the sector. So I highly recommend you coming and checking it out, because there's so many that are set up for more upside potential. Okay, let's look at IEGH. Okay, so this one came out with news today. I'm shifting gears a little bit. This is an over-the-counter stock, and it was really, you know, had a big move. Notice how it has hardly any volume, daily volume, and then today it had the big volume spike. You know, it had the big upper wick, the pullback from high of day. You know, so it does show profit taking. I'm sure they were selling some shares into the run, but this is the first day. This is day one, and we know how they run these cryptos, right? So keep in mind that this thing could get moving. So yeah, we you know, people were you know, taking a little lotto on this today in the chat, so I hope that works out for everybody, and we'll see if it can follow through for us next week. Okay, let's look at LVV. Okay, this one is a marijuana sector play. Yeah, we've you know, it made the huge breakout today. It's been on a multi-day run already, so keep in mind that it's on a 3-day run, and today was the big breakout, and we wanted to see intraday. We were looking for a break above 0067, and then that happened, and then it ran up to 008, and then we were looking for a run up to Pennyland, and it did. It hit Pennyland, which is right up here, and it broke it intraday, and then it pulled back. And so what we're looking for next week is a break above Pennyland. So that's going to be the big thing. We got to get this thing above a penny, or we don't have to, but that's what this company has to do. It's got to get back above a penny, and that will signal that it's heating up and getting ready to move. Check out where this has been in 2014. You know, this was only up at 14, 15 cents. You know, it's at this key level right here. That's why I said the 6 cents. Notice how that was big resistance from back here earlier this year, and then it's also a key resistance level from back in 2015. So it closed above both those levels, and then now it's hitting this 2014-2015 bottom level, and so it's really interesting. I mean, so I'm just letting you guys know that there's going to be some huge freaking winners, and there's going to be some very big winners, and there's going to be a lot of stocks going to be returning 1,000% plus gains, and it's all about catching them down here when they're below a penny, because this thing could easily run up into multiple pennies in the future. That's what happens. I'm just letting you know that I'm not saying this will definitely happen with this stock. I'm just using this as an example of what happens in the marijuana sector when it runs. You can see what happened back here in 2014 when it ran. You know, you can see the sector makes explosive moves during key parts of the year, and usually the key parts are during December and January. January is usually the big year. You can see this big run was January. okay, and in December it heated up. And so the January, February, December, January, and February are marijuana months, so historically. And so yeah, so keep an eye on that. We have a lot more plays where these plays came from. Please come check out our chat. I'll post the link at the end of the YouTube video. Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. I hope everyone has a wonderful time. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in the chat. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.